Who better than Derek, Pat, Andrew, the wrestling crew? Man, they bout to put an end to y'all careers like a finishing move. They bout to give y'all facts on these cats that's fighting on these mats. Y'all can't see them like John Cena. Even if y'all had 20/20 vision, y'all better listen, pay attention, and take notes down and realize that it's not your time now. And watch these three kings take the crown. Hey, hey.
This is the handsome dancing singer sensation Micah Jenkins, one half of the world's most entertaining tag team, the Taboo Crew. And you're listening to Wrestling IQ 101. Who's bad?
Hey guys, welcome back to another edition of Wrestling IQ 101. Make sure you like the page, subscribe, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and WrestlingIQ101.com. I'm Andrew alongside Pat and Derek. And today we're sitting with the Jewish American superstar, Elia Baratz. How you doing?
Hey, what's up, schmucks? How are you?
Hey, they. Oh man, so we got a lot of great questions for you. I wanted to start off with the Jewish Championship. How did that come about?
Well, the Jewish Heavyweight Championship came about basically at Old Time Wrestling. I had fought for all of the major championship belts and didn't have any luck, you know. I lost my heavyweight championship match. I lost in the finals for the classic championship finals. We had a tournament for that, and didn't get the tag team championships when I had the opportunity. So, and then also in Soul Survivor, I got bounced in Soul Survivor last year. So I had to do a lot of praying and a lot of deep thinking and a lot of soul searching, and I ended up enlisting in a 64-man wrestling tournament in Israel for the Jewish Heavyweight Championship, and I won it. I beat 63 other Jews, outlasted them all, and they allowed me to bring the Jewish Heavyweight Championship stateside, and unfortunately, I still, I defended it quite often, and I have lost it a few times, which they're not happy about, but hopefully I'll be winning it back shortly, and taking it back to Israel to defend there.
That sounds great. So it sounds like the next thing coming to WWE might be the Jewish American Classic or something like that.
Hey, they're doing one in England. They're doing the females. Why not an all of Europe one or a Israel one, or who knows? I'm sure they'll get to it eventually.
Yeah. So can you kind of tell us when you started your career, like how were your experiences at Ohio Valley Wrestling?
Yeah, honestly, it was, the opportunity to train at OVW at Ohio Valley Wrestling in Louisville, Kentucky was a dream come true for any aspiring professional wrestler. I'm older now, I'm 34, but when I first enrolled there, I was, 19 years old, and it was 2002, and, if you're going to be a pro wrestler and you get the opportunity to go to a WWE developmental facility to train, because they were allowing, they had like a beginner's class, why not go there? Why not shoot for the stars, what's the worst that'll happen? You don't make it, you don't make it. If you do, you have your foot in the door pretty much, and that was the mindset. I knew I wanted to be a pro wrestler after I graduated high school, but I also knew I didn't want to, bank on it, so to speak, so I did go to college, and when I first applied to California State University, Fullerton, because I wanted to go to UPW, which is where John Cena came out of, and Samoa Joe, and Frankie Kazarian, and a lot of other guys wrestled out of there, because they did the Discovery Channel documentary, and John Cena was the highlight of it. And I was just like, wow, they're signing guys, and it's California, and I live in Philadelphia. Who wouldn't want to get out of Philly to go to California? So that was my original plan, but that was the only college I didn't get accepted to. So I went to a private school called Teal College in between Pittsburgh and Erie, and I used that year to get good grades and get my body in shape because I was a pretty fat kid in high school. I was athletic. I was a 3-sport athlete, but I was just fat. So I did the opposite of the freshman 15. I didn't gain weight. I lost weight when I went to college because I was just focused and determined on becoming a pro wrestler. And and then once I got the grades, I transferred out after my freshman year to the University of Louisville with the sole intention of training at OVW. So it was awesome. Best training in the world. Nick Eugene Dinsmore was my original trainer right out of the gate, and he was the best mentor anybody could ever ask for. Quick little story. I watched him that summer going into 2002. The summer of 2002, I was back in Philly for the break, and right before I was going to Louisville, and I called OVW because I wanted to sign up for that beginner's class. In the meantime, my buddies and I, we went to SmackDown in Atlantic City, and I saw Nick Dinsmore wrestle Rob Conway that night, and I was marking out because I knew he was the trainer at OVW, and I knew that was two OVW guys. It was before they got, called up to the main roster, but that was Tuesday, and then on Wednesday I got a phone call from Nick Dinsmore, so he was already back in Louisville, and I just thought that was the coolest thing, that I saw him wrestle the night before, and then he called me, the next day. So I in my little marquee, 19-year-old, 19-year-old self, I just thought it was the coolest thing ever. And then after about 7 or 8 months, I got moved up to the advanced class, which is with the WWE developmental class. It's all the guys under contract, and Rip Rogers was running that, and that was the greatest experience ever. I mean, you're talking about wrestling guys that ultimately made it to WWE, a lot of them, and some of them didn't, but having the opportunity to wrestle guys like Dolph Ziggler, Damian Sandow, and Snitsky, Kennedy, Carlito, the list just keeps going on and on with the guys that I got to work during that time period. It was awesome. It was a great experience. Oh wow, yeah, they were all very different. I mean, so Nick Dinsmore, Eugene was like the perfect, hold your hand, walk you through everything, patient. You have to be very patient when you're training beginners, just because some people have a tougher learning curve than the others. So I picked it up really quick. The wrestling wasn't a problem. That was easy. And he was just awesome because he was the kind of guy that would, early on, he would pull me in and say, hey, we got a show in Indianapolis, why don't you ride with me? And me and him will just ride in the car for 2 hours, from Louisville to Indy to back after the show, and he would say, ask me any question you want about the business, inside the ring, outside the ring. I don't care if it's a mark question, I don't care if, what it is. Whatever you want to know about the business, I'll tell you what I know. And that's huge, especially, again, from a young kid who was, green as hell and just was wanting to learn as much about the business as possible. So to have a mentor like that was just, that was priceless. You couldn't put any kind of dollar figure on that. Rip Rogers was just the perfect, drill sergeant kind of coach. He if he liked you, he would mess with you and rip with you. But he was preach the fundamentals, just like in sports, just like in basketball. You practice, everyone has their go-to move in basketball, right? And let's say Allen Iverson was the crossover dribble. He didn't use it all the time, but he knew if he had to, he could use the crossover dribble at any point to shake a defender. And what Rip's training was basically like that. Like, we're going to train the fundamentals so hard that if something goes wrong in the ring, you can literally quickly recover by going back to a fundamental without the crowd knowing, sometimes without even the boys knowing. Wrestling was second nature with Rip Rogers, so his training was that kind of style, repetitive. The drills would change throughout the week, but the repetition, that's what he preached, and that's what made so many guys such great wrestlers, as well as the top guys in WWE, who all credit him for getting them mentally ready for the big time, like Cena and Orton and Brock Lesnar and Batista and all those other guys. Bill DeMott is the ultimate high school football coach. Tough on you, but he did it because he loved you and he cared. And if he wasn't hard on you, then he didn't care about you. And I can say that with my experiences with Bill DeMott, he was tough on me. He cared. He gave me a nickname. He would rib me every now and then, and it was funny because when you're young, you sometimes you let that stuff get to you internally, and you try not to make a big deal about it. But I remember, like, every now and then he would just say, "Bam Bam, I mess with you because I like you, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, of course, I know." And deep down I knew it. But when it came from Bill, it was nice to hear that too, because he was a tough guy. I watched him make a guy quit and walk out and never wrestle ever again because of Bill DeMott. So, for him to be that tough on some guys, that was his goal. His goal was to get you ready for TV, to push you to your best. And if you didn't want that, then you didn't get along with Bill. And I think, the dirt sheets and all that, they report that kind of stuff, that the people who didn't like Bill were the people that Bill didn't like because they didn't try hard enough. They didn't show that they wanted it enough. And I can speak to that because I was a non-contract guy. I didn't have a developmental deal, and he treated me just as well or just as hard as any developmental contract guy too. So he was equal to me as anybody else. So, if I, without a contract, could stand up to it, then whoever couldn't just didn't have the mental capacity to do it.
How did it make you feel how Bill DeMott was kind of forced to step down from NXT? Like, all the guys were complaining about him and things like that. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I remember, listen, he got vulgar at times, and obviously, like, when I was with Bill, it was like 2004-ish. It was before Deep South opened, and then, like, he went to Deep South when they opened that, and then we got Lance Storm and then Al Snow. But I was with Bill for a few months, and I don't doubt he said some of the things that was quote-unquote he said. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. I wouldn't be surprised if he did. But at the same time, everything can be taken out of context too. So I don't know if I really have an opinion on it, so to speak. I just would say I wouldn't be surprised if he said the things he said, but I also wouldn't be surprised if the guys fabricated it too because they didn't like him. Let's be real. It is the wrestling business. People, it is a little carny-ish at times, and sometimes people talk for the sake of talking, and they make stuff up for the sake of making stuff up, and so I don't know. I'm sure there's a little bit of truth to both. How about that?
Yeah, so along with training with Eugene, Rip Rogers, Bill DeMott, you also got the chance to train with Lance Storm and Al Snow. Can you kind of tell us about your experiences and some of the things you picked up from those guys?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, Lance was really good as a trainer. Very technical, and he was a different trainer compared to the others. I would say that Lance's heart wasn't fully into training at OVW. He just got done being, on the road, on the main roster, and this was kind of like the next step for him. They offered him the position after they moved Bill down to Deep South, and he took it. And like I said, his training was great. He taught a lot. I would say he probably didn't spend as much time with the non-contract guys, like myself and others, as Bill or Rip did. But his training was really good. He brought a different type of psychology too, because obviously, he had a lot of Japan influences, and his resume speaks for itself as far as his in-ring work. So, I mean, it was really great to learn from that caliber of performer. And then with Al Snow, Al Snow was awesome too. He's a really likable guy. Obviously very knowledgeable as well. He was a great trainer, going back to the Tough Enough days and all that. Nothing bad to say about Al. He was fair. He would rip into guys if they had to be ripped into. He would be the guy you could talk to if you needed to, vent. Al was a hell of a trainer too.
So, who were some of your friends you made in OVW, and do you still talk to them today?
Yeah, I still keep in touch with guys every now and then on Facebook, and we have like an OVW alumni group that people post in and stuff. I would say like my good friends. A lot of my good friends didn't actually necessarily get signed. When you're a non-contract guy, you would tend to hang around more with the non-contract guys, and then you may have a friend that's contract or not, but you know how the business is. It's very cyclical, just like your friendships are. And if you're not around each other, sometimes you lose touch. But like a non-contract guys, like Vaughn Lyles was a real good buddy of mine. We still text every now and then. Another guy, Robbie Dauber, awesome dude. And then we did have a few guys who I was close with who did get signed, like Steve Lewington. He wrestled as DJ Gabriel. He had a little cup of coffee there on the ECW brand back in the late 2000s. Elijah
right?
Burke. Elijah Burke, the Pope, another buddy of mine from back in the day. JTG and Chad Gaspard, they were, I was very friendly with them, spent time with them as well. Andy Baker he's an English wrestler. He's got a great out in the UK, RWA. Again, another good buddy, and this was all back when all those guys weren't signed either. So it was like you would just hang around with the guys that weren't signed, probably more than the contract guys. And then lastly, I'll just say it now because it's current, but even like Beth Phoenix. I wrestled her in her first match on OVW TV. It was her debut, and Beth and I were really close back in the day. I rode in cars with her to and from shows, and we would talk and all that. And she was such a sweetheart, and so especially to see her this weekend get inducted to the Hall of Fame and talk so highly of OVW, it was cool. I had goosebumps when she was up there. So
yeah, I saw that match. I think you should have won out of DQ.
Oh man, yeah, I'll tell you what, so that was that was fun. So obviously, you have to go in there, you gotta wrestle a girl, it is what it is, right? No big deal. But I would say the one thing I was really disappointed in, and it's kind of funny, I'll just tell the story. I was a little disappointed that Lance Storm didn't have our backs for that match. So, long story short, Jim Cornette says, okay, we're going to have to do an amateur wrestling exhibition, because Beth was a shoot amateur wrestler, before she got into pro wrestling. And so that was her gimmick, was that she's this big, tough female amateur wrestler, and she's going to wrestle the guys. So I was the first putz that she had to wrestle, and And so the way the story was written was, you know, we do a little bit of amateur wrestling. She gets the upper hand early. Then I get the upper hand, and she can't really get out of it. Hence, then I get, you know, beat up by Chris Masters and Brent Albright, and she puts me in her arm bar, and I tap out and all that good stuff. Well, so Lance Storm like laid out the match for us, like from the initial tie-up to everything. So we do it all, whatever. You know, we get to the back. Maybe after the show, Cornette comes up to us, and he's like pissed. He's like, no, I'm sorry, it wasn't after the show. It was on the next commercial break. He comes to the back. What the hell was that? And we're like, what? And he was like, what the hell kind of amateur wrestling match starts with a collar and elbow tie-up? He's like, did either of you two idiots ever amateur wrestle before? And we're both like, yeah. And he's like, did you two ever do a collar and elbow tie-up and a headlock in an amateur wrestling match? And we're like, no. And Lance Storm's just standing there, letting us take it from Jim Cornette. And I just remember, like, man, like, you can't even help us out. We're, like, Beth didn't have a contract. We're both trying to get contracts, and he just sat there, didn't take the heat for us, and didn't apologize after Jim left us too. Like, it was just, I just remember, like, man, you couldn't have helped us out a little bit, you know, but it happens, you know, if you're in the business long enough and you're doing anything of note, like a developmental TV taping, you know, you're going to get yelled at every now and then. It happens. It's part of the business, so.
I feel like that's awesome, because we never had a Jim Cornette story on here, and his
my goodness. Jim was awesome. I love Jim Cornette. Let me tell you, like, even as a non-contract guy, he would always do his best to push guys, get guys matches, and he did single-handedly get guys signed to contracts because they were on OVW TV so much that eventually when Johnny Ace would watch it, or whoever was in charge at the time would watch it, they would see some really good talent that didn't have contracts, and they eventually got signed. Like, that happened to, like, Johnny Jeter, Seth Skyfire, Mac Johnson, you know, a lot of good guys. You know, JTG even was doing some OVW TV. You know, or maybe that might have been right after Cornette left, but that's what I mean. Like, Cornette was always pushing non-contract guys and trying to get them matches and trying to get them seen. And I remember one time I'd been there for a few years at this point. I never had the opportunity to work any programs or anything. I was just enhancement. You know, which, hey, that, you know, being a jobber in and of itself is a job, so I took it upon myself to be the best damn jobber I could be. And I asked him one time, I said, you know, Jim, like, I've been here for a few years, like, you know, what more can I do to get a chance to prove something here, to do something? And, you know, brutally honest, and I appreciate it even to this day, he said, Bam Bam, he's like, you look like a baby. He's like, you look like a child compared to these men. He's like, I'm using you the best I can. How can I sell you and this pure baby face look you have and make people believe that you have a legitimate chance against a guy like Tyson Tomko, you know, or whatever. And he was right. And he was like, you know, he's like, maybe try growing some facial hair, maybe go to the tanning bed on your face more, and maybe you'll get some wrinkles. Like, you know, kind of joking, but being serious, but being honest about it too. He was, you know, he at least was honest with me. He could have just done the old, you know, sniff. Oh yeah, you know, when I get something, when I come up with something, I'll get you. You know, you're in the, you know. He could have ran around, danced around, and all that, and he did, and he was honest with me. So, you know, that right there it makes anybody good in my book if you can be honest to someone's face.
So speaking of Cornette, you were there for the infamous moment when, you know, he got fired. So can you go into that and tell that story a little bit?
Yeah, so it was the Boogeyman's debut, or the Boogeyman's like maybe second. I forget. It was early in the Boogeyman concept, and listen, like OVW was still very kayfabe. Like, Jim. I mean, it was 2004-ish, 2005 actually. I think it was, but it was kayfabe was still kind of around. Social media wasn't that big yet. So he still wrote TV in a kayfabe way as well, and Boogeyman made his thing, did his thing in the ring, and everybody's freaking out and getting scared, and he's going up to the barricade and shaking the barricade, and everybody's moving away except for one guy who's just sitting there laughing in his chair, didn't even get up, and lo and behold, that ended up being the future Santino Marella. And super nice guy. Still remember him. He was in the beginner's class at OVW, and trying to live his dream and make it into WWE and OVW just like everyone else. And it was just wrong place, wrong time, wrong everything. And so he sat there and was laughing when the Boogeyman came up, and Cornette came in and came to the back, and he said, who the hell is that kid out there? Somebody go get, this was during a commercial break, somebody go get him back here right now. So we all came out. We're in the locker rooms and stuff, and we all just came out into the hallway to see what was going on. And so Cornette gets him in the back, and he was obviously nervous. I mean, he made a mistake. It happens. And Cornette's yelling at him, like, pretty much face to face, and he's like, all right. He's like, yeah, you're not afraid of the Boogeyman? Are you not afraid of the Boogeyman? And then he slapped him right in the face. And he said, if you're not afraid of the Boogeyman, I bet you're not afraid of me, or something like that. Like, and then he slapped him again, and that was pretty much it. I mean, it was, I think Jim walked away, and Santino took it like a man, and, I'm sure he was pissed off and fuming and all that. And I'll tell you what, I give him all the credit in the world for coming back the next day, the next week, the next month. I mean, we all talked about it, and so many guys were saying, like, they could never come back to OVW if that had happened to them. More or less, refrain themselves from beating the crap out of Cornette too. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. It was obviously a bad situation. It wasn't cool, and Cornette's talked about it at length, and it sucked to see, and ultimately ended up losing his job with WWE for it, and honestly, it kind of changed OVW too. Like, I left not much longer after Cornette did, because he was so big on pushing the non-contract guys, and when Paul Heyman came in and took over TV and all that, I think he got the word from the office to not, to slow down on the non-contract guys. We need this TV time for our developmental talent, not for the guys who we don't give a crap about. So he started slowly not using contract talent and or non-contract guys, and it just kind of coincided with me graduating college and getting burned out with wrestling. When you're on that kind of level, when you're wrestling in a developmental like that, I mean, geez, if you sit the wrong way, if you sneeze or cough or look in the wrong direction or chew your food wrong, I mean, you could get heat for no reason, and that kind of environment really takes a toll on you. And imagine, you're making, $25-30 a match. Danny Davis would pay me for matches. I don't know why. Usually guys didn't get paid, but he would throw me matches, throw me money for house show matches and stuff, and so you're in an environment where you're walking on eggshells, literally from the second you walk in to the second you walk out, and it mentally wears on you, where it breaks you down, and especially at a young age too. Like, I mean, I did that from 19 to 23, so like I'm still trying to figure out what kind of man I am, and I'm trying to navigate my way in this wacky world of professional wrestling as a boy, as a young adult who barely knows who he is as a human being. So, it definitely can wear on you after a while, and I got really burned out, and I had to I ended up leaving OVW once I started noticing we weren't getting used anymore.
So how did you end up in OTW?
Yeah, so I did some indies for a couple years after I left OVW, and just worked the full-time job thing, and got married and all that stuff. And so my last match was in 2008, and I was like, you know what, like, I had broken my ankle, I snapped it in half, and tore all the ligaments, and had to get a plate and 3 screws put into my ankle in 2007. And I wrestled 2 matches after that just to prove to myself that I could, and that, I wasn't going to let that be the end of my wrestling career, right? You want to go out on your own, so to speak. And, so after 2008, I was just like, you know what, it's not worth getting hurt anymore. I just got over this injury. I don't want to get hurt again. So fast forward to 2015, early 2015. Actually, let's call it like fall of 2014. I was moved back to Philadelphia, and all my friends were always saying, man, you should get back into wrestling, you should do it again. We never got to see you, because I predominantly wrestled in, like, Kentucky, Tennessee, Indiana area. And I kept saying, no, I'm too old, I don't want to get hurt, blah, blah, blah. And one of my best friend, his girlfriend, basically, she passed away. And she was one of my biggest, like, pushers to get back into wrestling. She always kept telling me, like, to do it again, and she wants to watch, she wants to see it. She was like a half fan, not really, like, not a full fan, but she was enough of a fan where she was like, I'd go and I'd boo the crap out of you or cheer you, whatever you were. She's like, she's like, always just kept saying she wants to see me wrestle one day. And so she passed away, very suddenly, very bad, bad car accident, and I was there for it, which made it even worse. But after that, I just was like, you know what, man, we got one life to live in this world, like, we hung out all night, me, my boy, and his girl, and, we watched the Eagles beat the Giants 27-0, Sunday night football. It was like a great night. And like hanging out with her that night, she wasn't planning on dying. I talked to her on the phone that afternoon. She was all, happy, and you know what I mean? Like, that's just how quickly life can get taken from you, right? You go from happy and celebrating and everything's good, then all of a sudden, literally within 5 seconds, you can be dead. And I'm not trying to be graphic about it. So, like, it just made me realize, like, life's so short. Let's enjoy it. Be happy. Do what you love. Do what you want to do, because you never know when your time is up. You never know when and it's cliche, you never know when you wake up it's your last day or not. So, I didn't, like, know I was going to get back into wrestling, but I was like, I'm going to get myself into shape, and maybe I'll do it. And, I got myself into better shape, because I was a civilian for 7 years, and in like February 2015, I was like, okay, I'm ready to do it, and I just Googled wrestling schools in Philadelphia, and OTW was the first one that popped up. Literally, it was the first one at the top of the page. If something else, hypothetically, if another school popped up, I probably would have called them since they were the first one. But since OTW was first, I just called them and told them my story. the OVW thing and looking to get back in, and they welcomed me with open arms.
Nice. So when you first got started, literally 4 months in, you get to fight against Tomko. Can you kind of tell us about that experience? And you kind of got to fight like a lot of big names, or at least now they are big names. Can you kind of tell us about some of your experiences and some of the people you fought along the way?
Yeah, absolutely. So my wrestling career, so to speak, was like the exact opposite of most people's. Most people they learn how to wrestle at a wrestling school that's not a WWE developmental, and they work their way on the indies, and they work their way up. Their career is always escalating to a certain point. Well, like for me, I'm like the opposite. My wrestling career peaked at the beginning. For the first 4 years was the highest peak of my wrestling career, so to speak, because of where I went, because of the OVW thing and them being developmental at the time. So my first match ever was against Kalen Croft, who wrestled as the Dude Busters with Trent Beretta. Like, he wasn't Kalen Croft at the time, he was the Hitman Chris Cage, but eventually he would go on to be a WWE wrestler. That was like December 2002. It was literally like I had 3 or 4 months of training, and then literally like 2 weeks later, we were at an OVW house show, and it was it's like I had 4 or 5 months of training at the most, and I get to the we get to the building, and I see on the card it's me and Caleb Croft in a handicap match against Travis Tomko, and I'm just like, holy crap! I was more scared with my second match than I was with my first match, because if you remember, Tomko's like 6'6", 290 pounds, jacked, bald head, tatted up, big, like, King Tut, long black goatee hanging down. Like, I was like, God, if I mess up, this guy's gonna beat the living crap out of me. And, like, that's your second match ever, kid. There you go. Have fun. And, like, it went fine. It was, it was a squash match. I think we wrestled for about 5 or 6 minutes. But yeah, like, I was more, like, everyone will say the first match they were the most scared of. My first match was a pizza cake. It was a tag match in an amateur beginner's class show, we called it. So yeah, the second match was crazy. It was awesome, I mean, he hadn't made it on TV yet. He was still in developmental, but the intensity was there, and he was a super nice guy. I mean, he couldn't be any nicer. And something that Rip Rogers always says, like, if you follow him on Twitter, he's the best wrestling follow on Twitter there is. And he said, once you share the ring with someone, you share a bond with them forever. And it's so true, because, like, ever since then, like, Tomko was always super nice to me. Not that he wasn't nice before, but it's true. When you share a ring with someone, and as long as you guys don't hate each other, as long as there's not any animosity, you always will have a little bond, a little connection to each other. And ever since then, he was always super cool to me. He even, like, played a rib on me once. We did a battle royal at a house show, and he was part of the rib where I ended up winning, but I won by accident. Like, the 2 guys eliminated themselves. They did, like, the clothesline over the top rope, and the guy pulled the other guy over with him. So I'm just left in the ring by myself as the accidental winner. Kind of like Darren Young had, on Raw a bunch of months ago. And so I'm like, okay, so I'm like celebrating, right? Because that's what you got to do. I just got to play it off like it was supposed to happen. But part of me was, like, kind of scared. I was like, oh my God, they're going to think I messed this up, or I was supposed to get eliminated. And so I get to the back, and he's the first one. He's right in my face, yelling at me, screaming at me. He's like, you think you're a big dog now? You think you're the best, blah, blah, blah. Like, just right in my grill. And I was, I'm not gonna lie, I was 20 years old, I think. You know, just such a young kid. I just scared. Like, I'm so sorry, I didn't know. And then he like turned around, and I think like from what I got, like he just winked at the boys, and he turned back around facing me and goes, "I'm just messing with you, kid. Good job." And he like gave me a hug, and like, basically like all the boys were laughing and stuff, big rib on me and all that. But he's such a nice guy, awesome dude. I got to wrestle Mark Henry like 3 times when he was there on rehab. He had an injury at some point. All the guys would come in when they were injured. They would come and train with us because we were the only developmental. Pretty much like how the Performance Center is now. Is just like what we were in that regard, where when guys and girls are injured, they'll go to the Performance Center to knock the ring rust off and all that. So Mark Henry came down for like a month or two, and I was able to wrestle him a few times. Did a couple handicap matches, like with Mike Mondo, with Mikey from the Spirit Squad. We did like a 6-man tag where I was against him. So it was cool. It was really cool to wrestle him, and like I did Raw and SmackDown in 2006, and so it'd been a few years since he saw me, and he told me, like, "Hey man, what's up, man? How you been?" and all that. Like a few years had went by, he still remembered me, and super cool guy, super just a nice, awesome, nice dude, and just an awesome person to talk to. So Mark Henry was only like the only superstar I wrestled, like that was current at the time. All the rest were guys that eventually made it, and quite often I would actually be like the first match for a guy who just got signed under developmental. So like, for example, like I wrestled Ken Kennedy in his first OVW match. I wrestled Chris Masters in his first OVW match. I wrestled Snitsky in his first OVW match. Because that was my job. I was the jobber. So I would go out there and do the 5-minute job and make them look good and all that. So there's definitely something cool to look back on.
Speaking about Raw, you recently were on Raw.
Yeah, I made it back. I made it back. It was 2006. I did it, and I had left the business shortly thereafter. And one of my goals getting back into wrestling was to get back to WWE and do extra work, and hopefully one day get a match on Raw or SmackDown or a dark match or whatever. I mean, that's it was the one thing I never got to do. And I knew with WrestleMania coming up this week or last week now, that, when we're recording this, but I knew that it wasn't going to really be an opportunity to wrestle just because of the TV time that's allotted. But, maybe now with the new guys coming up, new superstars debuting, maybe there'll be opportunities to do squash matches, job matches, dark matches, whatever. So I'll keep my fingers crossed for the the next time around, and hopefully I can get a match one day.
Yeah. It's kind of like the opposite now. A lot of the seasoned guys like AJ Styles and Samoa Joe are being elevated. Do you feel like now that you're an older guy from when you first started with WWE, OVW, do you feel like now maybe you'll have a better understanding of what to do now to be elevated?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, some of us younger guys from OVW back in the day, when we keep in touch, we always say the same thing. Like, we were too young to really fully understand, appreciate, and really know what we were doing in the moment. I mean, in the wrestling industry, like, we were at one of the highest points you could get to for people who didn't have contracts with the WWE. So when you're that young, you're still figuring out your life and who you are as a human being. Like, I'm not the same person at 34 that I was at 24, let alone at 21 and 22 and all that. So now looking at, and like, wrestling has changed a lot too, in the sense of, like, you notice the WWE, they don't sign guys that are super young anymore. They are a little bit older. They do have more experience, more life experience. They've grown up. They're more mature. And I think that's better for wrestling as a whole. I think it takes a lot of time to get really good at wrestling. They always say, like Rip Rogers and Steve Austin always say, like, when you hit the 10-year mark in the business, like, something just clicks in your head, and you become a different performer and a different wrestler, because something just changes. And I can honestly speak to that now, because I'm in my 10th year in the business total, minus the gap that I missed. And I can honestly say, like, I've hit a stride this year that I've been reaching for, like, the last 2 years since I've been back in the business. Like, I finally have kind of hit my groove as a performer, as a character, in the ring, skill-wise. Like, something's just changed in the last couple of months for me. That, like I said, I can't really, like, say this is the reason, other than the fact that I crossed over the 10-year mark. So, I think it's great that they're calling up guys, they're signing guys that are older, that have made a huge impact around the world on the independent level, and finally giving them the opportunity to showcase their talent worldwide and make serious money doing it.
So, kind of, what advice, because you had like a great start, you were trained by some great guys, had some matches with some good guys as well. What advice do you give to someone getting into wrestling today?
Yeah, there's a couple things that I kind of stick to with wrestling and the advice. Like, the first thing is, you gotta leave your ego at the door. Like, wrestling's an egotistical business anyway. Because it is show business, I hate to say it, it's not a real sport, right, so to speak. The outcomes are predetermined. You go on a winning streak, it's because somebody chose you to go on a winning streak. And if you go on a losing streak, it's because someone chose you to go on a losing streak. Winning and losing are just as real, or just as fake, excuse me. So, like, with that being said, like, the egos in wrestling, that's one of the biggest downfalls to it. And I can honestly say that that it feels like it's not as bad now in 2017 as it was in 2002, 3, 4, 5. I feel like the egos have gone down, and especially after being at Raw and SmackDown recently, like, you can see, like, the guys, like, it's so much different being there now as opposed to being there back in 2006, and as opposed to being in developmental for the years before that. The locker room was so much lighter. The guys were so much lighter. The girls were so much lighter. Like, there wasn't a stiffness in the air, so to speak. So my advice to a person starting out is, don't bring your ego in. You gotta listen, keep your ears open, keep your eyes open, and keep your mouth shut. It's a Rip Rogers line. He is one of my mentors in wrestling, and he says that all the time. Listen, mouth shut, ears and eyes open, because you'll learn. You'll learn from people that are better than you if you just sit there and listen. And it still holds true today. And with anybody new coming into the business, don't talk back. If someone tells you to do something, you do it. If you fail, you work on it, you get better, you do it again, you'll get it. And then the last advice is try to ride with people and talk to people that are better than you. that have done more than you. Hang around people that can make you a better wrestler, a better promo, a better performer, because those guys are good. They'll make you better just by your observing and you talking to them and picking their brain. It's so important to do that if you want to make it in pro wrestling. And then the ultimate last thing is, don't worry about what other people are doing. Don't worry about what other people are getting. Don't lose the jealousy. There's no place in wrestling for jealousy, and here's the reason why. You have to accept the fact that the best person doesn't get to play, and I mean that in football, in basketball, in baseball. In those athletic sports, the best get to play, no matter what. That's just the way it is. If you're second string because the person in front of you is better. But in wrestling, it's not like that. You can, there's no rhyme or reason to the business. The best wrestler doesn't get a WWE contract. The best promo guy doesn't get a WWE contract. The best gimmick doesn't get a WWE contract. There's no rhyme or reason. So you have to accept that and be happy for the people that get it, and hope that one day you're in the right place at the right time with the right look, the right gimmick, the right skill set to get that contract, or to go to Japan, or get a Ring of Honor deal, or whatever goal you have in wrestling. Focus on yourself, because it's so hard to make it. Why worry about other people? Worry about yourself, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how good you are, how good you look. It doesn't matter. All that matters is right place, right time.
So with that being said, could you see a guy like Brian Johnson or Adam Chandler getting signed somewhere?
Oh my goodness, absolutely. I mean, Brian's hands down a phenomenal talent. Great promo, great in-ring work. Works well on the fly, as we call it. Just the ultimate professional. Brian's a really good brother of mine, and I know he will get picked up by one of the top, companies, in the United States. Adam Chandler, another really good buddy of mine. Perfect WWE look. 6'2", 245 pounds. Big, muscular, vascular, great look, has tons of charisma. No reason why he shouldn't get a contract either.
So you wrestled Brian Johnson, Adam Chandler, and so many other wrestlers at OTW. Do you have any favorite matches of yours?
Yeah, I mean, Brian and I had some really good matches. Brian and I, we've only wrestled each other singles, I think, 2 or 3 times. Maybe a few more times. But him and I have this connection in the ring where, we don't have to talk very much. A lot of our matches, we just went out there and did it on the fly, and we only had a little bit kind of planned, the finish and maybe some falses involved. But, him and I can get in the ring and just feel each other out and feel the crowd and give the crowd what they're looking for that particular day. I love working with Brian. Like I said, there's one of the guys I know I just get in the ring with, and we're good. We don't have to talk. I know what he wants to do. He knows what I want to do, and we just feel it out. I love Adam and I had my first ever main event match. Believe it or not, it took me November of 2015 was my first ever main event in any capacity in professional wrestling, and for the first time in my life, I could just wrestle and do whatever I wanted and not be held back to my position on the card. I'm a big believer in, you wrestle to where you are on the card. So if you're the first match, you don't do any dives to the outside, you don't jump off the top rope, you don't do 6 false finishes and kick out of finishing moves and all that, because you're killing the main event when you're doing all that stuff, or you're killing the first half main event when you're doing all that stuff in the first match, the second match, the third match. The shows need to build themselves throughout the night. So I wrestle to where I'm at on the card. So being in the main event for the first time, it was nice to have time to wrestle and to do what we wanted to do and not hold anything back. And I cherish that match because, you know, just like in typical indie fashion, you go 6 to 8 or 8 to 10, and that's it. Well, you know, we went like 17, and so it was nice to know that I could go and put some time on a match if I had to, and not hold anything back. So I cherish that match as the first opportunity I had to be in a main event.
Now, can you tell us, is there anybody that you've seen, you know, at OTW or any other promotion that you think just like they could be the next like breakout star?
You know, I don't want to I'm not good at this, like who will be the next breakout star or anything like that. And I don't want to single anybody out because I don't want them to get a big hit, or I don't want to hurt anybody else's feelings. Yeah. But you know what? Like, we have a handful of guys at OTW who definitely have a shot to go somewhere in the business right now. That's not to say that, you know, in a couple more years, there's other guys who can't get to that level as well. But like I would say right now, we have a handful of guys in OTW who have a real legitimate shot to go somewhere in this business further than the independent scene. You know, same with PPW, Pennsylvania Premier Wrestling, up in Hazleton. It's another place that I wrestle at. They have a great roster up there, and the booker there, Tommy Swade, he was actually a developmental guy. He was at Deep South with Bill DeMott, so he books the shows, and he does a great job up there. And there's a few guys up there too who have a really good chance who have the good looks and good in-ring talent, you know, to really make it. Yeah, like I would definitely say that, you know, this is a great time to be a professional wrestler. There's a lot of opportunity between WWE, Ring of Honor, and even like Impact now, you know, with the new ownership and all that. Like, they're debuting some new guys, and guys are able to live their dreams now, wrestling on a national platform. And then you have your larger independent promotions too that guys can wrestle in and make a little bit of a name for themselves, you know. So and get opportunities to wrestle overseas, like in England or Japan or Europe and stuff like that. So like, there's an opportunity to make a mark in this business one way or another. You know, and there's definitely plenty of guys who can do it for sure.
How did you come up with this persona that you have now?
Yeah, so it goes back to, like, when I was in OVW, I did a fraternity gimmick. Because I was in a fraternity and I was in college, and that was my life. I like to drink and I like to party, and so why not bring, you know, they always say the best characters are yourself with the volume turned up, right? So that's what I did. At OVW, I was Bam Bam Penders, and I was the drunken fraternity kid that everybody liked. I was the underdog. So it worked, and I had, you know, the crowd always cheered for me, and they liked me, and I always hit different things with my gimmick. You know, I dressed up like John Belushi and with the college shirt, and I'd come out with like the hat with the beer cans on it, and I'd come out with a keg, and you know, all that. The gimmick was awesome. So fast forward to when I got back in the business, I was 32. So I was like, well, I can't really be a fraternity boy anymore because I'm 32, not 22. And my buddies actually came up with the idea that I do this Jewish character. It was fresh. It hasn't been done on mainstream television. And we would always joke that I was born of Jewish descent, so I'm adopted. My biological parents, who were Jewish, had me at a very young age. They were in high school. And so they put me up for adoption, and I was adopted by great, amazing parents. But I was born of Jewish descent, so I had like the curly, tight curly brown hair, and so we would always joke, even my brother-in-law would always, my German brother-in-law would always crack jokes at me about being Jewish and stuff. So that's kind of how it came up, and then the next step was learning more about the culture and all that. And so my boss, I work for a medical practice, and the doctor I work for is Jewish, and his mom is Jewish. So they immersed me into the Jewish culture, telling me everything that they knew and everything they could and how I could translate it into wrestling. And I got to the name, and I didn't want to go with, like, my original thought was, like, maybe I could be, like, Goldberg's illegitimate child or something, right? Like, try to do something corny like that. And a couple of my buddies and my boss were like, nah, don't do that. They're like, you can't have a regular Jewish name. You got to be, like, creative with it and be different. So I was like, cool. So my boss, he said he went to school with a kid named Elia, E-L-I-A, and he was like, I hated Elia. I wanted to punch him in the face every day. He was such a tool. And I was like, and I literally just, like, started laughing. I'm like, oh my God, like, we just struck gold. Like, that is such a perfect heel name. It's annoying. It sounds prissy and just like, I want to be the guy that the fans want to punch in the face. So I was like, perfect. We got a first name. And then another buddy of mine, Mike, he started Googling kind of like uncommon Jewish last names. And, he had a list of like 100 uncommon Jewish last names. And he read every one of them to me. And he literally, after he read every single one, he was like, honestly, I really like Baratz. Because there's so much you can do with Baratz. Kind of like Brock Lesnar. You can go Elia Baratz. And then he also had these visions of maybe kids will be chanting brat, like my brat. Or you might get people do the Borat thing. He just said there's so many little spin-offs with your last name. He's like, I really like it. So we stuck with it. Elia Baratz.
Do you think there's gonna be a comeback of Bam Bam joining BTY?
We joke. I joked about that all the time. I kept telling them how jealous I was that they were doing the fraternity gimmick at other places, and no, I don't think so, man. I think I want to leave all those good memories of the frat boy gimmick in the past. Funny story. So I left OVW in 2005. And by 2006, Dolph Ziggler, or maybe it was 2007, Dolph Ziggler and Mike Mondo, they were in the Spirit Squad. They started doing a fraternity gimmick, and I knew it was because of me. They ripped it off of me. And deep down, I was hoping they would make it, to WWE with that kind of gimmick. Just so one day I could rub it in their face that, that they made it to the WWE with stealing my gimmick. But they ended up obviously not going with it. But the person who came up with that gimmick for me was John Morrison, Johnny Nitro. Oh, wow. We used to ride together from time to time, and actually, this is a really funny story. So, we were driving Bradshaw in his truck. Actually, I was driving Bradshaw's truck. And he's drinking beers in the back, messing around with us and all this stuff. So he ends up passing out. I guess, he's taking a nap because it was late after the show. And Morrison and I, he was in the passenger seat, and we were just talking about gimmicks and stuff. And he said, like, he had written down, like, 10 gimmicks. Because I think this was right after he did the Johnny Nitro thing with Eric Bischoff. So he was back down again in developmental. And he said, like, he went through his notebook of gimmicks that he wrote down, and he said he had a fraternity gimmick, and he was like, you should do that. He's like, since you're in a fraternity. And I was like, really? I'm like, oh, I didn't even think of that, because I was still kind of early-ish on, so to speak. So, so that's how I got the fraternity gimmick, was from John Morrison. So, I'm going to leave that all in the past as good memories, so.
Now, can you kind of tell fans where they can find you at on social media?
Yeah, so I am on Twitter at Jew American Star, JEW American Star. I don't have an Instagram. Maybe one day I'll sign up for it. And I am on Facebook, but just under my real name, Jerry Penders, Jerry, P as in Paul, E-N as in Nancy, D as in David, E-R-S as in Sam. And I've been toying around with maybe starting an Elia Baratz page. I definitely don't want to change my shoot Facebook page, because I have to admit I am that old that I was in the first million Facebook subscribers back when you had to have a college email to sign up for it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you watch the Facebook movie, they make the big deal about the 1 millionth member they had, and I was in the first million, so that's one of my claims to being old, is that I was able to do that. So
awesome. Well, we thank you. We definitely thank you for taking time out and giving us such great stories, and we definitely appreciate it a lot.
Thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it, and look forward to seeing you guys soon at an OTW show or somewhere in Jersey where you guys are at, maybe one day.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Thank you. And for everyone listening, remember to like, follow, and subscribe our Wrestling IQ 101 on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and WrestlingIQ101.com. Check out all our videos there.